last night I was in VIP, and I was talking and I was sharing my story, and we had the biggest crowd at VIP. It was like
70's huge. I haven't heard 70 in a long time.
76 fucking people in one room in a church.
Yeah.
And for the first time, I wasn't nervous, and I walked up, and I was like, "Shake it out, get it out." You know, had everybody stand as last presenter, and then I was just authentically myself, and that's the first time that I'm able to like authentically be who I am and have fun and like talk to people that I don't know, and I contribute it to recovery, but also attribute it to like doing this and then like facilitating groups.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and even when you like at a meeting, right, AA or NA meeting, when you start, you start speaking, start learning how to speak at a table, and even in those small areas, and then you get to chair a meeting. The more comfortable you get into those, and how to tell your story, how to also stay on topic.
Yeah.
You know, instead of, life, I know me, man, I can get on a squirrel and ride that puppy out until I find the next one to keep jumping. Yeah. But, so I got to rein myself in and go, wait, let's get back over here. Yeah. But in doing so, yeah, I remember the first time I was doing the VIPs. Now, I grew up on stage. All right.
Yeah, you're used to it.
I was from 5 years old. My grandparents had me in choruses and stuff like that. So I'm used to it, but it's still like when you're up in front of everybody, you can kind of get a tone. When I was going into it, I was still not driving. Like I would show up in my. It took me 15 minutes to walk there in the snow, got my boots, got my ones on, got my backpack, all right? And I haven't done the VIP in a couple of years. It's time I went and did one. Because especially I still love doing this in wintertime. I still have all that same gear. And you can ask Ron and Carlos the story of my backpack. Because you can tell, like, there's a pin drop when I'm talking about that backpack. Because, for 4 hours out of my day is bus rides. That's get up, walk to the bus, bus to work, get off work, 2 buses to get to the VIP panel, another bus, 30 minutes, wait to get on a bus to go home. December. And I'm still showing up for those meetings. But the thing is, when I walk into that meeting, you're wondering why everybody's turning around. And I'm smacking all the snow off of me. I'm shaking off. I'm kicking my boots. And I'm getting out of my gear, right?
Yeah.
So one day I leaned over to Ron. I said, hey, watch me tell them this story. So I walk up there with all my gear. And there used to be I don't know if it's still there. There was a TV stand right there. So I used to drape all my stuff on the TV stand, and I said, so, something I'm going to discuss with you is your comfy car and having to do this every day for the next 10 years of your life because you decided to drink and drive. Boom. All of a sudden, people are like, what? I'm like, my Christmas present to myself this year was this backpack. Because it's waterproof. Yeah. And that comfy inside console you got with all your stuff. And your charger. And you're comfortable in your zone, in your car. Fit it all into this because that's your life now. Outside of your job, outside of the house, wherever you go, this is your life. Yeah. And that's what you get to play with. Yeah. This gear you see right here is because I got to walk. I got to do this. I got to do that. These boots... right here, I got some nice ones. It's because I got tired of my feet freezing standing up at the bus stop 4 times a day, 5 to 6 days a week. And that's what you get to do. So think about those things. How's where your comfort level is. There's a lot more to, yes, we shouldn't drink and drive. We shouldn't take the risk. We don't want to hurt anybody else. Sure. But then you get into your comfort zones.
Yeah.
You lose those comfort zones very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And it's a sudden, harsh reality, and you get it for 10 years of your life. And people would be like, oh. So one of the things I started to do, though, is I had to start realizing I'm coming down on them a little hard. Yeah, you know?
Well, it's good. It's good.
You know, it was, but I had to rein it back a little bit and learn my speech.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Kind of, so outside of all of that, then I'd get the guys involved. So, how about you? What is that? You know, to kind of break the mood.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of times where I realized for those first couple of years, man, I would just leave everybody in this, like, zone. And I didn't like doing that anymore, you know?
Yeah. The cool thing about last night, though, like for me, was there was an active duty guy there. So I could not necessarily pick on him, but I could be like, hey, when I was in the Army, they said, always have a plan, right? Mm-hmm. And he would say, yeah. And there was a spouse there, so I was able to, you know, relate with her. And then I just kind of went, you know, paced back and forth of the room. And the crazy thing was that kind of like icebreaker, aside from like get up and shake it off.
Right.
I mean, we're in a church, right?
Yeah.
Counterculture, I don't believe in a necessarily monotheistic version of God, so you know I'm very blunt and honest from anybody that watches. You know me, and you know I said something to the effect of nobody fucking cares, and everybody was like, "Oh," and I said fuck in a church.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
But the like you strip away that the persona of being perfect in recovery, because we're not.
Yeah.
And you give them life on life's terms. Mm-hmm. This is who I am. I'm not some knight in shining armor. I have a beard. I'm just a dude that would that made mistakes, much like everybody else, and I had to pay for my mistakes. And you get to see me at you know, in some of these bad scenarios. Mm-hmm. So that's what was so cool about last night, and I enjoyed it a lot. But
yeah, I miss them. So it used to be that it was me, Kat, and Ron.
Yeah, that
was the three, right? And we had our routine. Ron has his story about, you know, going to jail and what that was like. Kat's story is more about what, you know, she got into some major car accidents and stuff like that, and also where that all took her in a career. What I talk about is the victims.
Yeah.
But and you can hear it in when Ron and Carlos, they kind of picked up on what I would do on that. Yeah. But that was my part of the story, was talking about, because like I talk about how on my second DUI, my mom was the one that had my ex-wife at the time was working graveyard, so I'm out partying while my mom is at the house watching at the time, let's see here. See, he was 6-year-old, right? Yeah. 3:00 in the morning, she's bailing me out for my second DUI. And when you walk out of AJ in the bottom there, they got the door, the yellow sided door, the metal one, and the glass. Mm-hmm. And there's my son getting to watch me come out. And that's, again, he's a victim. Yeah. My mom had her over the years, especially when it came into my third DUI, my mom, my wife at the time, my son, my employers, all these people, these were victims of my actions. Yeah. I would bring up the police officer that pulled me over. And you would hear sometimes, especially the younger crowd or some of the older crowd, be like, I'd bring up police officers and they're like, right? I'm like, well, you might not like to hear this, but when they're scraping a body out of a car, that's not something a human being should ever have to deal with. No. And that's something that they have to sit there every day out on the road and expect to happen. Yeah. Because fools like us keep doing this. And those are victims too.
Absolutely.
You know, those EMTs that are out there trying to save a life that at times includes your own, they're victims too.
Yeah.
So when does the victimization start? Because it doesn't stop. It never started with me. Mm-hmm. I'm not the victim in this. And all of a sudden you'd see a lot of people going, and I've felt bad when I go down that road because with my voice and when I'm really getting into it, I can look rather like, and get into the part. And I've had people crying. Yeah, I've looked and there's like been women or not kids, but youths that are like dabbing their eyes and they're like, oh. And so I've learned again, kind of leave a little bit lighter tone here because I can really rah. Yeah. Sorry, you know. Definitely. But that, unfortunately, is what I do to myself. So when I put it out there, I need to let these people. I'm like, you all need to know, just the level where we have people have had people go and talk about when they've lost a loved one, and it's like it just smacks you, right? But the people that are in the crowd, they haven't hit that level, so they can't relate to that. They can hear the story, but they can't relate to the fact that they don't have a memory like that. They don't have an impact like that. So what do they have an impact that they can relate to? The people that they have affected. The terms that they're going to be looking at, and the possibility of restrictions for the rest of their lives. Yeah. So a lot of times at the end, I'd be the last one, and that's the stuff I would throw out there. Yeah. And like, there's been a few times where the crowd's been. I had a couple of guys like stand up, right, and all whatever. But usually I had to stop leaving the group like that because I would be done, and everybody would be like in this just horrible mood at the end of the meeting. Yeah. So I had to like in some way bring it up, bring it upwards. Yeah. But you get used to it. You get used to knowing the story. You'll get in this thread with everybody, like that's your story. Then I can pick up on this topic, and if you get the right people, you'll find your routine, and you can fill that time up with just the right commentary, just enough impact, just enough lightheartedness to be able to keep everybody interested in what you guys what we have to say, so that they're hearing it, and the main point, they're hearing it. Yeah. It's not just words at that point. Yeah, because we've also been in those meetings where you can tell in the crowd nobody's there getting much of it. I mean, you might have one or two people that are like, thank you, but everybody else is like, all right, ASAP, check. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Because I remember being that guy too. Yeah. First time when I went through that, I had 2 shooters going in. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that I was going to hit on last night, I completely spaced until I got out, is somebody said this to me, and it stuck with me, that I used to live in the not yets. Hasn't happened yet. And so when I would hear people share their story like that, I'm like, well, I haven't done it. And then it's happening. Right in front of my face. It's literally happening in front of my face. But I want to thank you guys for joining us in this conversation. We're 15 minutes deep already.
Are we live right now?
No, it's just a recording.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was going to say, wow, okay.
No, it's just recording. Welcome to Sitting with Sean. This is Lance Haynes. Lance is a good buddy of mine, and I like to look at him as a mentor, somebody that I look at and I say, he has what I want.
And, I'm glad you think so.
And I like to really kind of model, how I approach people and what I do and how I interact with people, with how he's interacted with me, and you are a big inspiration to why I do what I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That means a lot, man. I really appreciate that.
Lance, would you like to give a formal introduction of yourself?
Sure, my name is Lance Haynes. I am, how do you officially say it, I'm a person in long-term recovery. What that means to me is that I have been without any mood-altering or drugs or alcohol and substances and blah, blah, blah for 9 years and some months now. Since May 19th, 2013. So there's the official part. On the unofficial part, I'm an ex-drunk who got himself into a lot of trouble, got my head out of my ass, got in the middle of people that, like Sean says with me, led the way before me. And I followed. And to this day, I still follow. And that's why I'm sober today.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Sean and I earlier were talking about, freedoms of spirits and freedom of choice and just the freedom to be today. And that's the other side of it. I am no longer constrained by the shackles of my addictions. Not to say I'm perfect, not to say I don't have addictive behaviors, and that doesn't mean that I don't have addictive thoughts at times, but I'm not shackled by them any longer. One of the reasons that Sean and I do what we do is because it keeps us connected, keeps us in the battle so that we're still warriors strong, rather than dragging our feet behind wondering, I wish we could. Those days, the I wish I could, they come up every once in a while, but they're not led by fear anymore. And the old I wish I coulds are old. They're in the past. That's why I can sit here with this big happy smiley face on me and not slur my words at the same time anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
And have a great time sitting here talking.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the first time I met Lance was actually in this exact building and a few rooms over. We were doing a train the trainer class, and I kind of spot people out that I want to that I want to keep my eye on, and that's weird because it sounds like stalkering, stalkerish. But I want to watch what they're doing, how they're interacting, and every word out of Lance's mouth was knowledgeable and added to the conversation, and didn't take away from the conversation, and really just gave me the sense of empowerment. So we had our first smoke break. We're doing a train the trainer for peer support class, and we have our first smoke break. And I go outside, and this is back when I used to smoke, and I was like, "Hey, man," and he was a human to me, and I haven't had that level of interaction with very many people where they've treated me like a human being, not like something else. And that was the first time that I really felt comfortable, like in my recovery, where I didn't feel like an outcast. And this man made me feel that way.
Aw.
And
you're pumping me up. I'm going to cry.
well, I mean it.
I'm blushing at least. No.
I mean it. He made me feel like a human. He made me feel like my mistakes that I made weren't who I was and didn't define who I was. And he treated me like I mattered, and so that really that helped me out a lot. And ever since then, I've been like, if I had something that I had that was just boggling my mind, whether it was work related or personal related, I'd be like, "Hey, Lance, you good?
Yeah.
Hey, man, I got to talk to you." And he would be right there, and he would always talk to me. And if he couldn't be there right away, he would make sure that he responded to me in a timely manner. And so I want to take the moment to say thank you for who you are to me and who you are to society, because we need more people like you in this world.
Wow. You're welcome. I have to practice that daily, is just saying you're welcome. But wow, I don't know what to say. Yeah, thank you.
I leave you speechless.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't take large compliments and big praise well, but that says a lot. And it's a, that's also a reflection of my recovery, and I thank you.
You're welcome.
No.
There's three people in this organization that I look up to, and you're one of them. Michael Meridian and Carlos are three of the people that I really look up to, and I'm like, if all else fails, they're gonna give me the right answers, and like the world could tumble around me and everybody could feed me bad information, but if I look at them, they're gonna know the right thing to do, or at least give me what they did to overcome something. So you are among one of the three people in this organization that I look up to, and I say that's who I model my recovery after.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You got a strong program. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
All right. So, anyways, before.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we got things.
All right.
So when I contacted Lance and I said, "Hey, man, I want to do a podcast," the first question is, "Where do you want to do this at?" It wasn't, "Hey, when are you available?" It's, "Where do you want to do it at?" And I was like, well, normally I sit in my basement, but
Yeah.
Where do you want to do it
I was
at?
ready to come to your basement, man. Totally.
Yeah.
We'll do the next one at your basement.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I'll sit on the boxes. I don't care. Yep.
Yeah, but he said, where do you want to do it? And so we decided in person. Mm-hmm. And because the world's kind of opening up now and things can happen, or has been open for a while, I just said, screw it, why not?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because all the earmuffs and other, no, man, no, we're buds. We're just going to do this.
Yep.
Just next to each other. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I, drove my way here through crazy Anchorage, right as school's getting out to go do it. And so, Lance, I would like to hear your story. What was it like in your active addiction?
Well, I'll start out with, I'm originally from Hawaii, Honolulu, Hawaii. Was born and raised there. Severe ADHD, severe dyslexia, little teeny white kid, in the middle of Hawaii. Extreme low self-esteem, all of those things. I had been on institutional Ritalin since the age of 4. So one of the things that I remember, and this is one of those, what I like to call my golden road. Mm-hmm. I have many stones on my golden road, and when I look behind me, those stones are what are my path. And my part of that path was being told since I was very, very little that I would never be able to be normal without being on a medication. Yeah. So, that came with, as kids, teasings and stuff like that. It was what it was. I'm not going back and going, woe is me. I'm just kind of leading up to using this as part of my framework. Mm-hmm. But it also was part of my self-esteem issues and things of that nature. And, I was very sickly growing up. So going forward, 13 years old, buddy of mine at junior high school says, hey, why don't you sneak out of your house tonight? I have a pint of Bacardi. Mm-hmm. And I said, I couldn't sneak out of the house. What are you talking about? That's terrible, right? Yeah. So at about 10 o'clock at night, I'm taking the louvers out of my window in my bedroom. My mom had gone to sleep. His and my elementary school were right across the street. And he said, I'll be there at 10. By 10:15, I'm leaving. 10 o'clock, man, I am already 13 years old. So we get out there, and it was 1:51. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so my very first drunk was on 1:51. But brutal. The thing with it was, so like a lot of times you hear, I took my first drink and the world lit up for me. I relaxed. I didn't care what you thought. I didn't. The monsters in my head finally shut up, and the night was on. And I remember good pockets of it, but the thing that really, in retrospect, that I look at that really screamed, this guy's on his way, was that later that night, we ended up back at the school, and there was probably about a half pint of this left. So we took a couple sips, and he had it in his jacket. And I was sitting there like, I want more of that. Yeah. Come on, give me more. And I'm bugging him. He's like, no, but I just got to lay down. So he lays down. I sneak it out from his jacket, and I finish that bottle off. All right? And he's passed out. I lay it down. Luckily for me, I'm literally across the street. I'm so tore up, I crawl. It's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I crawl from there across the street and make it into my apartment and pass out. Wake up the next day, oh, did I hurt, right? But the odd thing about it was, and I didn't make the connection then, was that very next day in class, he comes down, he sits next to me, and he's like, you know what happened to that bottle? I said, no, but we were drinking quite a lot, right? Of course, lying like, no. So I'm already lying about my addiction, right? And then he goes, oh, man, I don't want to never do that again. And in my mind, what I thought, I was disappointed because I wanted to do it again that night. I wanted so bad to do that all over again, you know? Mm-hmm. So between 13 and 14, I go and find people like me. I find kids like me. By the time 14 comes around, I'm not going to school. I'm stealing money. Mm-hmm. I'm going down and buying $2 40s, like 6 at a time. Wow. When I go to the races, I go to win. So for me, what my alcoholism and my addictions consistently were if this is how high or drunk I am now, tomorrow I want to be here. The next time I want to go here. I want to know just how far I can push myself when it comes to my alcoholism or my drug use. Yeah. And that includes anything you could put in front of me. There were only a couple of drugs I didn't get into. Yeah. Other than that, it was volumes of whatever I could do. I'm really stoked. Thank you to my higher power that I'm still alive to this day, or I'm not as damaged. We'll see in about another 10 years. But so that was like. So in my addiction, it was haywire, bad relation. Well, I can't say totally bad relationships, but they always ended up toxic. My main focus was my next party. That's what I loved. I loved the party. Yeah. I loved the feeling of and everything I did brought a sense of enough to where I was not seeing the damage that I was doing to my relationship with my family, relationship with my significant others, the relationships with my friends. And in time past, I've also been able to realize just how many of my relationships and friendships have been based around use of whatever it is and whatever it is at the time. Because I find friends, and I've spent 6 months in Reno doing more meth than I can put on this table in 6 months. And all my friends were people that either did the same thing or supplied the same thing. So, and it was the same way. There was a time in my life in the 90s, early 90s, where, I was doing massive amounts of LSD. Because it was there, it was available, it was cheap. Yeah. And you were high for a long time, give me more of that. But once again, when you're taking 5 hits and that doesn't do it for you anymore. So you're taking 10 hits. Ooh, well, I just did 10 hits. Guess what I'm doing next weekend? 15, exactly, and So when I was inebriated, I'm not seeing the effects. I'm not caring about the effects. Yeah. And tomorrow when I wake up, I'm running away from the consequences. Yeah. So that went up and down. Got married in '96. Moved to Alaska. Did three months. Really put into it. 3 months I got in here. I got a job. I got an apartment for my new wife and I. Really trying to dial things in. Told myself I'm going clean. Got a new life. We're doing this. In 3 months I'm out there partying again. 3 months couldn't do it. You know, it was that final somebody offered a good time and I said I am in the mood for a good time. Yeah. Fast forward 10 years later, no, 12 years later, and up here I didn't get into all the heavy drugs that I did before I moved up here. I left all of that behind. I didn't get into a lot. I just, back, especially when I got up here, it was just pot and alcohol. Yeah. And after that, I really stuck with just pot and drink. Mm-hmm. And there were times where alcohol was the peak, and then I got bored with that, and I told myself I need to step away from that. But instead of trying to get things better, my consumption of marijuana went up. That's all. Just constant substitute. So it's just all the time, up and down, up and down. Well, I can vaguely remember, I remember the first time here, things started to really go wonky in my decision making, I would say, or I would say my decisions on my usage. Yeah. Like when I was in my early 30s was when I started to drink in the morning. Mm-hmm. Started to drink before going to work, things like that. My relationship at home, even at that point, was still I give her so much credit for putting up with, I'm going out. Yeah. See you later. I'm going out. And the bazillions of times that I was drinking and driving, or smoking and driving, inebriated driving, regardless of and in reflection, I couldn't imagine her having to sit at home, wondering, just waiting. And in 2008, she got that call. Yeah. 2008, there's that first DUI. And of course, still drinking. It was a weekend in jail and $1,500 fine, 30 days without your license. I'm like, psh, whatever.
Cake.
Yeah, got this. And saying 100%, I'll never do it again. I love you all. Never do it again. 2011 did it again. Yeah. But between 2008 and 2011, it was starting to get my life was really spiraling. Things were not good career-wise. I mean, when I got up here in '96, I started it here in downtown when all the brew pubs are really opening up, and I got myself up there. I was up there in the chef world, and really looking to step off into my own careers. But I could never. It would always held me back, and I didn't realize just how much it held me back until I met some of these people in my sobriety. Because I didn't realize how many people were ready to invest in me to become like one of the top chefs up here. Yeah. But what kept holding me back was my usage and my behaviors, and the showing up with the hangovers or showing up with alcohol in my breath again, things like that. And so, right on the cusp of being into a top chef down into being a breakfast cook, making $13 an hour over 5 years, and just and prior to that, it was I was drinking all over town.
Yep.
Every job I got, I would be an opener because that allowed me to get into these places and drink before the rest of the people started showing up.
Yep.
So I'm just pulling,
Loaded.
getting garbage before people show up. The only difference was I could do my job and prep like crazy and clean and all that. So where the kitchen, so they had this, it's a give and take. Man, this is awesome work.
But you're shit.
But you're shit based. Yeah. Yeah. So I bring that into the fact that, my career is I have stable work. I know that, and I'm consistently working. Problem is, I'm drinking up all my money all the time, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. And so 2011 hits, and I get my second DUI, which puts me into treatment. What was it? 6 months, no license, all of that kind of breathalyzer and everything. And really started to damage my behaviors. Really started to damage my family life.
Yeah.
Which at the time I really didn't have much of a social life anymore. It was my family and my work.
Yeah.
But of course, the bottle was number one over both.
Yeah.
So between the 2011 and 2013, that's when I started to go to some meetings, but I just couldn't seem to put it away. And so by the time my third DUI hit in 2013, in that last couple of years, that's when the wife left me. That's when I kept spiraling so bad I was trying so desperately to control myself.
Yeah.
And couldn't figure out why.
Yeah.
I'm literally walking to the liquor store at 9:55, almost in tears because I can't stop myself from going to the liquor store and being there by 10.
Yeah.
And why? Why can't I stop? Why can't I do this? Because every night before I go to bed, or try to go to bed, after I'm a fifth and a half deep in, I'm only getting an hour's worth of sleep here and there,
Mm-hmm.
And the realities are, I'm shitting blood. Mm-hmm. I'm 80 pounds overweight. My heart's going like crazy. And all I can do is literally, I have a coffee cup. In my bedroom, I have a bedside table, and I can't get off the bed because on that end table is my bottle, my coffee cup, my cigarettes, and I was just literally stuck in this routine of shoot a coffee cup worth of whiskey, put it down, have a cigarette, stop the cigarette. When I'm done with the cigarette, tell myself I need to go do something or whatever it is, right? But first, I'm going to have another cup of whiskey, because I need that before I go do anything. Then I'm going to have a cigarette because I need a cigarette after that.
Yeah.
And darn it, I need to go do something. First, hours of this, hours upon hours, to the point where I'm like doing this at 8 o'clock at night. I've got my son coming up to the bedroom door going, "Dad, can you come out? Can you come play with me?" "Yeah, son, I'll be right there. But first.
Yeah.
Did that for years. To the point where I would go out and it'd be like 4:00 in the morning. And I'd go out there ready. I'm like, finally, yes, I'm going to go hang out with my boy. Where is everybody? And I look at the clock and it's dark outside and it's 4:00 in the morning, realizing, guess what I get to do? I got to be working an hour. Well, you know what I'm going to do? Before I go to work, I'm going to go sit down on my bedside. I'm going to have my coffee cup, going to have my cigarette. You know, and I did that for a long, long time. And I realized my insanity, but I couldn't stop the insanity no matter what I did. So, about a month before my third DUI, 2013, I am suicidal. All right. I've got my 44. I'm polishing it all the time. I keep loading and unloading bullets. Right. I haven't put it to my head yet, but I'm doing this almost every night. Until I decide that's it. So I go down to the car. I decide I'm going to take my father's urn and my grandfather's flag. And that's what I'm going to die with. I go down into the car and I'm going back and forth and back and forth. And I've got this gun going back and forth, back and forth. And finally I hit that moment of, just do it already. And it's because I can't do this anymore. And I'm thinking of everybody else. I'm like, I'm such wallowing in such misery. And, you know, in retrospect, a lot of selfishness, a lot of self-serving attitudes, a lot of just self. But it was also that I needed to stop, and it just won't stop. This will stop it. Maybe this will quiet everything. So I get in the car with the intention that way when they find me, they can just pull the car away with me in it. Yeah. And so the mess is less. Yeah. Right? Who's thinking this stuff? But yeah, right? So I bring the gun up, get it right about here, and I had already pulled it back, and the gun went off. Wow. Yeah. Put a hole through the roof, and it just shocked me. I was like, whoa. And I think, to this day, people have heard this story, and all I said was, that was loud. And I put the gun down. Yeah. So I scoop all that stuff up. I go into I put it away. It scared the shit out of me. Yeah. I put it all away. Next night, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't tell anybody what had just transpired. Next night, there I am in my room again. Boom, 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 boom. And I did something that I hadn't done in a long, long time. That was I prayed. Mm-hmm. And you hear a lot of people talk these, their story, whatnot. But what I wasn't a praying man. But I finally decided, you know what? I've heard maybe whatever. At this point, I'm desperate. Right? Yeah. The true gift, finally, the gift of desperation. So I'm desperate, and I turn around off my bed, and I get on my knees, and I take a swig.
That's the last one.
No. Not at all. Nope. But I turned around, and I just thought to myself, I don't know if this was real. I'm not saying nothing out loud. I'm just rolling this through my head. I said, I don't know if any of this is real. But I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. I need help doing it. If I have the chance to do it, I said, to whatever it is that's out there, I probably don't deserve a chance, but I really need something to step in because, even if it's the police, yeah. I just need to stop, and I can't stop myself. Please help me stop. And swear to whatever is out there, in my mind, I'm seeing blueberry and cherry lights, right?
Yeah.
And I said, if that's what it takes, I'm willing to, but I can't stop on my own.
Yeah.
And that was it. I didn't say amen or nothing. I just said thank you. And I got back up, sat back down, had another shot, smoke. 2 days later, I'm going to Coots. Screw it, going to Coots.
Yeah.
Right? So go to Coots, end of the night. I am plastered.
Yeah.
I get in my friend's car, I turn over the key. Right behind me, I didn't even see it. Right behind me is the police. And I dropped my head down. I turned the key off. I got out of the car. He goes, "Why are you getting out of the car?" I said, "Because you are saving my life."
Yeah.
And he went, "What?" And those are true quoted words. I'm not like saying it because we're this and that.
Yeah.
I looked at him, I said, "Because you're saving my life." And so I told him, "Look, I am completely trashed. You're going to be taking me in. This is my third DUI. Let's not even do the walk thing. Just do the blow." And he's like, "Yeah, he asked me, "Are you, what is it, like, denying a walk test?" And I said, "No, I'm saying that I can barely walk. I know that regardless of how I act out here, you're going to do the blow, and that's going to be that. So let's just move this along, because I don't want to do this anymore."
Yeah.
And on the conversation there, I'm all hemmed up, and on the way in, I'm like, thank you. He goes, "Stop thanking me. You're going to jail." I said, "That's what I want. I need to have no way to get a bottle. I need to have no way to smoke a joint, to do anything." I said, I know that the last thing my ex-wife or my son need to deal with right now is this. And I know that there's going to be consequences. I know there's going to be pain. But if I have any chance, I'm just going to have to bear with this. They're going to have to bear with this. But I was given a gift just now that I believe was a gift. Because from that day forward, I haven't used or drank. That was another of those foundation stones in my golden road.
Absolutely.
So now, going back to when I mentioned things like being told that I could never be I would never be normal off without being on a medication. I haven't been on any medications, nothing, since I got sober.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I'm more normal today than I am the normal guy that when I was a kid wish I could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's another golden nugget in my foundation, because, fuck what you said.
Yeah. I can relate. I can relate to that. When I was a kid, I had ADHD, and I lived with my grandparents, and they were like, "We're gonna have to feed you this shit until you're old enough to do it yourself."
Yeah, 16, and then you get nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was fortunate enough that when I moved in with my dad, he was like, "Fuck no, you're a kid." That's one of the good things that my dad did for me.
Was he let you just go be a kid?
Yeah, he was like, wherever your brain takes you, let it go. But then I got punished for my brain taking me. But he set me free,
Right.
And so I can relate to that. And one of the questions I had is like you talked about in the span of 2011 to 13, you went to a few meetings. What was that first meeting like for you when you went?
The first time I went to an AA meeting...
Like, what were you thinking?
Well, I was terrified, for one.
Yeah.
But now this was the thing. So, a friend of mine, this was a friend... Actually, it was a friend of my mother-in-laws. And we had met a couple of times. But she had said that he had gone to AA before. Mm-hmm. Now, at that point, it was like, hey, let's give it a shot. Let's see, But I was still expecting the miracle. I was still thinking that there was going to be a magic wand in all of this, right?
Yeah.
So we go to the first meeting, and I went through the routine. Hi, my name's Lance. I'm an alcoholic, but it was routine. And I heard some good stories, and I heard some other people struggling, and I could kind of make some connection. So for a little while there, I was going regularly, because I liked what they had to say, and I'm very inspire driven, right? So I would see the inspiration in them, and that gave me inspiration in me. But there were a lot of times where I just used it to control my drinking. Yeah. Like, hey, instead of a fifth a day, I feel good, and I shouldn't drink too much. So I'll just have a little bit and be a nice guy. Yeah. Even though I'm drinking, hey, look, everybody, I'm better now because I'm not totally inebriated. I'm not sitting in my room. I'm out making dinner. We're having a great day, right? Yeah. So all's good now, right? Right? Yeah, right? And then, this is my expectation. Yeah. We'd do it 2 or 3 days, right? Hey, look at me, guys. Hey, I'm back. Yeah. And then the reality is, the dysfunctionality and the toxicity that was already there. Guess what? It's still there. Yeah. And so I'm sitting there going, well, if it's still going to be there, fuck it, I'm going to be the old guy again. Yeah.
The insanity.
Yeah, until I realized, I'm stepping my toes in some shit again. So let's go back to a meeting and try it out again, right? Yeah. Never got a sponsor, never did the steps. Nothing's better than sitting in a bathroom with a bottle of whiskey in one hand, trying to read the big book in the other. Oh, yeah, you got some good things to say. Blah, blah, blah,
blah. My first meeting was when I was like 18 or 19. No, I was.
Oh, you went early.
Oh my God. No, it was like 2010. Yeah, it was 2010 because my dad was sober. Anyway, so my dad's like, hey, I'm going to AA meeting tonight. You want to come with me? And I was like, I'll go to support you because he was, getting sober. And I was like, I'll go to support you. But just so happened that the AA meeting that we were going to was a speaker meeting. And who's the speaker?
Dad.
My dad.
Sucker.
And I'm like, you son of a bitch. You drugged me to a meeting where you're going to brag about yourself.
But it wasn't.
No, that's what I thought about at the time. And I was like, you're going to brag about yourself about how you've done all these things and you're just this fucking miraculous person. But I know who you really are. I didn't. And that kind of shunned me away from AA. When I would get sober, people like, oh, why don't you try AA? I'm like, fuck AA. Like, I don't want anything to do with them. When I got into the program in vet court, like, AA opened my eyes to a lot of things, a lot of possibilities, working the steps, getting a sponsor, absolutely transformed my life.
Well, because you were also just like myself in a lot of ways, finally willing to put aside all of this because all of this gave us this nugget of shit is what it gave us.
Yeah, it gave us that bullshit that we were looking for. But, all right, so what was the recovery like for you when you first got into recovery?
So, you, like you stated, you went through vet court. Yeah. So I went through DUI court. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I did was I got, like, really structured on myself. I put myself in this real hard line box. Like so unfortunately, addictive, whatever. So I went from super loose to super tight.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I was
like
terrified. Yeah. It's because I was terrified of myself.
Yeah.
And I needed this to work. I absolutely had to have this work.
Yeah.
Because it was my life. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if alcohol and drugs were getting me to a point where I was willing to take my life, then and with the decision that I was granted and blessed with, I needed to give all of that over, the same investment, willing to change my life. So immediately, I got offered, on my third DUI, I got offered therapeutic courts, and I was all for it. Anything that would, like, they were like, it's 18 months. I'm like, yes, something that's long. Lots of treatment, lots of groups, lots of this and that. And I said, fine, make me do it. I went into recovery like it was a SEAL boot camp.
Yeah.
I put my head down and I gritted my teeth, and I was ready to just dive into the mud and come out a different man. Yeah. And that's how I took it. There was a lot of, you would have, we're all alcoholics and addicts. So around me in therapeutic court, around me in the meetings, and around me in my whatever, people are doing their own little things, right? I didn't involve with myself with any of that. I shoved my nose into what therapeutic court expected me to do, what my sponsor told me to do. Because, it was all suggestion. No, you're telling me. And I told him that from the beginning. I said, I need you to tell me to do something, because I'm going to jump higher than you're expecting, because I need this that bad. Yeah. He said service work. I said, what time? Yeah. That fast, He said step work. I said, I've already read the book 3 times. Let's go. But in turn, I got involved with my alumni. You are part of that same alumni. And at that time, when we were going to alumni groups, right, they weren't mandatory. And we had only one facilitator. There was one meeting on Mondays. And like the most I ever had in that group were 4 people. Wow. There were a lot of times where it was myself and one other gentleman, or just myself, that showed up on Mondays before court. Well, through him, I had found out about the business meetings, because there turns out that the alumni group was a little bit more than I thought it was. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So I was heavy into the service work with AA, and I thought, these people are doing me a service, and a therapeutic court is doing me a service, so I'm going to be of service to them too. Mm-hmm. So I started going to the business meetings, and realized that their hands were dipping in a lot more out there than people knew at all, and there were only 5 people on the board at the time. Mm-hmm. So that was it. When you hear the stories about how small we were tiny, but it gave me purpose. It gave me a reason to get off my couch. It gave me a reason to not be home wallowing in my own despair if I decide to go there. Because I was still fresh in recovery. It was still easy for me to get caught in my head. I didn't have the defenses I do now. There were, especially early on, you're still dealing with the drunken and the drunken drug dreams, or sitting there watching TV, ha ha ha. Next thing you know, there's a whiskey commercial comes on, and before you realize it, you've got drool down on your shirt. You know? And you're like, what the heck? You know, and you're trying to take this in, like, why is it and what is it and all of that. You know, with the therapeutic courts too, we had the treatment, we had court, we had alumni, we had mandatory meetings, and I needed that. And so like I said, for me, I really went at it as this is what's going to change my life, or I won't live. I truly won't live. Yeah. It's this or death. I proved that, so it's this or death. Yeah. And over time, we were able to expand the meetings into. I was contracted through partners. I was doing 2 meetings here, and doing 3 meetings for alumni a week, all in person. Wow! On top of my 4 meetings for me a week, VIP panel was there 5 years straight, didn't miss a single one. Nice. Had, sponsees in and out of there. And one of the things that I did was, again, I wanted so deeply to help somebody else. One of the things you mentioned at the very beginning of this is that, when I saw you, I treated you like a human. It was because, and for me, this is something that I believe in, is that all of this, what recovery gave me back, was my humanity. When it found me, I was nothing but an animal. Yeah. And nobody, no matter how desperate you are out there, you're still there. That humanity is still in you. You might have lost it, but it's there. Yeah. And I have no right to treat you any more or any less than the human being that you present to me.
Absolutely.
Period. And so with that and my drive for service work, and I wanted to be on the front lines. So cooking, going back to that, I did cook for about the first couple of years, and then I decided to go into doing this in a clinical end. Yeah. With that, moved over to working in recovery services, and I've been doing that has been my career now for the last 7 years, out of the 9 years that I've been in recovery, and I love it. It comes back to being able to help people find their humanity again. When I was very first in doing this, I've been in residential services the whole time, and I have a very good friend of mine that I watched him from where I was when he walked out of that residential center. He had that high pro glow. His head was up. He was clean. He was bright-eyed. He had hope again. Mm-hmm. And man, I got to be a part of that. Yeah. Yeah. And that's, right there, the end. Doing it the rest of my life. Yeah. Yeah. In wherever I can. I can say that, 7 years ago, I got into a whole new level of relationship. So of course that took some time away from my service work, and an incredibly amazing new generation of facilitators and board members and all of that came on board. And it's not that I don't want to, which I'm stoked to be able to take on a group again, but it was time to let you guys come in and just make this alumni group just amazing. It's just wild to think about sitting at that table going, so we've got like $400. How much do you think we can like spend on the budget for the Christmas party this year? And everybody just volunteering, everybody buying the food as we can because there was no money for it, things like that, right? And now, where we are as a 501c3 with what we're doing on in the peer community nationwide, it blows my mind how strong of a peer community and how well known of a peer community there is in Anchorage, and how little they know of us.
Yeah.
That's the truth. I'll tell you right now, I know those peers that are out there. I know those peers that are showing up doing all this peer work and all of that. They have no idea about us, and they have no idea what we're doing as a peer group and have been doing as a peer group that has laid the foundation for these others to be doing what they're doing today.
Yeah.
We're working on a national level now, not to discredit what they are doing. These are my people. These are our people. I love them to death, and I would do anything. I'll have their spirits back any day. Mm-hmm. But going back onto that road of laying the groundwork for peers in Alaska to be recognized, we were laying that groundwork back in 2006.
Yeah,
we've been laying that groundwork at our capital every year for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Now we're still doing that. We're helping to lay that groundwork on a national level, so that we can, and that's just a testament of the drive that we have to support each other and keep supporting more. Helping each other become human again, helping each other thrive, helping each other be, and I can sit here all day long and get on this soapbox, man. Yeah. I can't, but I don't need to, because I'm sure you have a time limit, but I mean, I can go all day long about this stuff because it inspires me. You guys inspire me. When I watch what you do today, man, dude. 6 months ago, you were like, was it last year, I think it was? You were balls to the wall in recovery services and took a step back. I don't blame you. I know I had to take a step back because that guy that was like this, I found I was choking myself.
Oh, yeah.
And I realized that there's nothing wrong with doing what I do, being what I be, and bringing who I am to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, much like you, when I got into the program, I went balls to the wall. Like, I took myself from out here to in here, and my life revolved around recovery. And it still does, because if I don't have my recovery first, then I don't have anything.
Right.
But it was so much so to the point where, the vet court, you're only mandated to go to 2 recovery meetings a week. I was hitting them every day.
Right.
I was going every day. And then I was doing service work and I'm doing classes. I literally, they asked me, when are you done with relapse prevention? And I said, the day that I graduate. And they were like, well, you all you got to do is talk to your counselors. I said, I'm going to stay until the day I graduate. I stayed till the day I graduated in MRT. Like, I had already done all my required time for my mentorship, but I knew, I had this thought that if I stepped away from one part of my program, I was lacking in something else, right? And I didn't understand the concept that like our programs change over time.
Yeah.
Like not that it didn't supplement or that it didn't do something good, but it was meant to fill that space in that time. You got your early recovery programs, and then you have your sustained recovery programs.
Right. Maintenance.
Maintenance, exactly. And so when I got out of the program, I was like, I need to figure out where I fit in. And I thought I fit in everywhere. right? I was like, I'm Sean Young, and I'm gonna fucking fit in wherever I go. And that was wrong.
Yeah.
And I realized that. And it took me going to, and I'm not going to say the name of the clinic, but
of course not.
Going to a clinic and realizing that some people aren't as into recovery as I am. The peers that I work with are, but everybody outside of that peership was not. And everybody that says that they're for the peer recovery movement aren't.
Yeah, there's, and that's the individual, right?
Yeah.
That's the individual. And so you just kind of, you roll with it.
Yeah.
You know, I know that in these years that I've been doing this, the only thing that I can do is just keep doing what I do. And it still comes back to me as the one person helping another person.
Absolutely.
One alcoholic helping another alcoholic. One addict helping another addict. And the job that I do, I don't do so much like that anymore. Because I'm a program supervisor now, right? But my role helps that addict. My role helps that alcoholic. So again, it keeps me centered, going one person helping another person, rather than big, large, grand scapes and schemes. And I start getting into all of that, and I lose myself. Then my ego wants to go, hey, look at me, look at me. That's right. No, and that's when I get screwed. I screw up. But like you said. What I found was I was pulling myself too thin. Yeah. So there was a point where I really had to pull back and reground myself, but also realize, I remember I asked a good friend of ours once, I said, we were having an alumni dinner, and I leaned over to him, and I said, when do I get to be myself again? I was running all this stuff, and I was really realizing that, like, I had become so rigid that, like, even at home, like, if I got a pretty wacky sense of humor. If I wanted to laugh, I'd question myself. I was like, is that improper? And finally, I just realized, you know what? Out of all of this, I was born to be me. If I'm going to laugh at that, if I'm going to appreciate this, if I'm going to love that, it's because that's exactly whatever it is put me on this world to be. Yeah. So I started to loosen that up, and I started to realize that that's when my recovery really kind of blew up into just being like this, recovery. I think it really became recovered in a lot of ways, because I wasn't fearing the outside, and I stopped fearing the inside anymore. I realized that I can trust my decision making now. It was one of the things that really came down to after, and this was 3 years in. Because that guy looked at me and he goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I said, okay. And I dropped it right there, because, at that moment, I really did, again, feel like alone. It was like, and I brought this up to my sponsor too. And he was all about, do what you feel is best. As long as you don't drink or hurt other people, you can, but I couldn't I kept going like, if I step out of this line or if I push this line, am I in recovery anymore?
Yeah.
You know, am I going to drink? Am I going to use? Am I going to be the asshole I used to be if I just loosen up a little bit?
Yeah.
So it took me time to be able to loosen up and bring about, I should say, the person that I am today in recovery, rather than just being, I'm in recovery. I don't drink. I don't do nuts. Neither do you. The end. Don't do this. Kind of thing, right?
I'm drinking, you can't.
Yeah. Don't be like me, okay? There you go. To now, it's just, be able to relax, have that sense of, I gave myself the opportunity to get to know Lance.
Yeah.
And I also gave myself the opportunity to be comfortable in my own skin, to be comfortable with all the things I doubted. Growing up to, I just turned 50 and there's, and today I'm like, I can look in the mirror and go, dude,
You're awesome.
Yeah, right? And not even that, but at least I can just look in the mirror.
Yeah.
At myself and not shy away and not go, ooh, or any of that kind of stuff. And I got people that, like yourself, man, that we just are. We get to be today.
Yeah. I used to run away from, like when I got in recovery, I used to run away from those things. So like if I'm watching YouTube and I see an alcohol ad pop up, I'd be like, fuck you, I'm so mad at you piece of shit. Why would that come up? Right? I'm like, and like I would shy away from those things. And recently I've started to notice that, and this might be controversial thought, alcohol is no longer my problem.
Right.
This is my problem. And for anybody watching, I'm going to explain.
Yep.
Alcohol is not my problem because alcohol is not sitting there saying, drink me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Alcohol cannot put alcohol to my lips and make me drink.
Mm-hmm.
My brain is the one that says, hey, man, it's a good idea.
Right.
Hey, man, you can have one and be okay. And so when I said that to somebody and they're like, well, you'll never be, yeah, exactly. I'm never going to be able to drink again, but drink is not my problem.
Right.
My brain's my fucking problem.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. With what you do here, this has the potential to be something you can't control, be something that ruins your life, be something that ruins everybody else's lives.
Yeah.
Water. That water right there in that jug could kill you. Because you drink so good. It's you're absolutely right. My sponsor sat there and told me, so now that you no longer have alcohol as a solution, what's your solution? So it's not.
Yeah.
And lots of different books, lots of different 12-step books mention repeatedly that you are now no longer controlled by the obsession of alcohol. Doesn't mean you're no longer obsessive.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Moderation is a must. Everything we do.
In just about everything, but if you can't instill moderation, then abstinence is the key.
Yeah.
That's just what you've got to do.
Yeah.
What are you doing? It's good to see you, brother. I'm on a recording, but I gotta go over here. I don't know.
Yeah, And to a degree, this started to become a problem. Not podcasting, but the frequency, right? So, like, I would get to this point where I was like, I can schedule one a day and record and put them out.
Right.
But then one a day became, I'm gonna be a guest on somebody else's show.
Now it's twice.
Oh, this other guy, he wants me to do a podcast, an episode with 5 other people where I've just done 3 recordings.
Yeah. Now it's your life.
Yeah. And now it started to consume me. So I went down to NADCP and I realized I am running myself thin.
Yes.
And that if I don't create this schedule, if I don't moderate myself, then I'm going to put myself right back in the same position, different substance.
Yep.
And I have to slow and pace myself.
Yeah. Because, that's I learned a long time ago. I can go no farther than 5 commitments at one time.
Yeah.
When I get into number 6, and I've tried repeatedly to manage more than 5 things at a time, and then the cards start to fall.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn to say no.
Yeah.
And I've told people many times, right now I've got too much going on. Or be totally honest, I'm at 5 commitments. I can't do any more, but I'm almost done with one. Once that hits, we're good.
Yeah.
But I've just learned that if I go more than that, things get wonky. I get wonky, and I'm done with wonky.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
And those are the kind of things we learn in recovery. The funny thing is, what I have also realized is that's what, like, a lot of people learn, like, in life anyways. Mm-hmm. We just like to say it's in recovery.
Yeah.
Because we waited 30, 40 years to actually, like, try to learn this stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So we can say that, and I am absolutely, from 13 to 42, I was actively in my addictions. Yeah. So 41. So I had a great, horrible run in all of that. Yeah. And you know what? The investment didn't come out on the return like I thought it would.
Yeah.
So now I'm trying something else.
Right.
And, things like this, things like, being in film like I've been doing the last few years, doing my work, being in an amazing relationship, being a better father, having a relationship with both my son, my daughter, and my grandkids, and accepting that, and being thankful that I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
Being glad I'm not perfect. Being thankful that I can be goofy and my family and my friends enjoy it.
Yeah.
But also being just ecstatic over the fact that I can still help somebody find what has been so freely given to me. I can't imagine. I mean, I've sat there numerous times already and thought to myself, if I go right now, it's been worth it.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about how, when we were doing this, you've done bad things, and I treated you like a human. Oh, man, just nobody's out there that didn't do a bad thing.
Yeah.
Period. Some of us have done a lot worse than others, but in all of that, I really think that what we do today, what makes a difference today with what we do in recovery, is that we put others, we walk side by side with others, no matter where they are. Mm-hmm. We can walk by their side.
Absolutely.
It's not pedestals, it's not leading, it's not any of that. It's just we're equals. And I'm willing to help you in any way find that equal in yourself. Mm-hmm. You're right, that's the kind of people. So my mentor was Mike Meridian.
Yeah.
And that is something that isn't taught. That's something, that's a little acorn that was inside that we finally watered. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And some people want to, others don't, and that's okay. Because the universe is going to balance that out. The universe just decided at some point when I was 41, okay, and here you go.
Yep.
You know, and, okay, we'll just get that old soil out of the way, start watering that acorn,
Yep.
and now go do it for me.
Absolutely.
You know, just like you do. You know, you stepped away from the clinical work and put yourself right into this. Put yourself right into the alumni work. I mean, boom. And as you can tell, it's not like you're making gobs and gobs of money, but spiritually, there's no gold brighter.
No, you can't put a price tag on recovery, and you can't put a price tag on watching people succeed in their life.
Yeah.
Or fall, falling flat on their face.
Falling forward.
Yeah, picking themselves right back up. Mm-hmm. And there's no price tag you can put on that, and that's the most beautiful thing that I've ever been able to be a part of.
Yeah.
Aside from my daughters being born.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. There's a balance.
Well, you just got to put that in as a disclaimer, right?
Yeah. If you're watching this, please.
Yeah.
Please know. I love you.
Yeah. Red banner across the bottom of the screen.
This does not reflect the views of
Yeah.
But Lance, I wanna thank you for being a part of this, a part of my family, and a part of my recovery journey, and sharing your story. You are priceless to me, and I want you to know that. Thank you.
Oh, brother.
Thank you.
Anytime, happy to come back. Because there are some new topics. Let's play.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Have fun, everybody. Stay safe out there and have fun.
All right. Till next time, you guys be good. Much love.